You just said yesterday that it's a no-brainer you would vote for Donald Trump if he's the nominee. So that begs the question, what about the indictments, the potential criminal trials, 2 impeachments? That does not give you any pause. Well, do you approve of former President Trump's conduct on January 6th? I know you've criticized the violence that day, but what about what Donald Trump did specifically, which has been established on January 6th? Well, Governor, I mean, Donald Trump ran on, an elected businessman. I can fix things, and we saw a lot of things that went wrong, arguably. Do you see Joe Biden as the legitimate elected president?
Andrea Mitchell is generally just the worst. MSNBC's favorite octogenarian who is supposed to be this voice of experience and skill in the interview game. But she's none of those things. She is a joke, a partisan hack, someone who fawns over Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Barack Obama. You're noticing a little bit of a trend here. Of course you do. But she gets things wrong so often, it's somewhat embarrassing. Doug Burgum is running for president as a Republican, so strike one against him when it comes to getting on MSNBC and talking with people, but he needs to do it, so he goes on MSNBC. And as you saw a second ago, the first 3 questions that were asked were all about Donald Trump, because that's pretty much it. Now we get into Doug Burgum and who he is, what his record is, things that he has actually accomplished in his life, a little about him. Oh, just kidding. We'll deal with the hot button issues of the day. And she tries to make statements on them instead of asking actual questions. She just basically admits that's what she's doing.
Well, let me ask you about a couple of specific issues. Abortion. You signed into law one of the strictest bans in the nation at 6 weeks, with no exception for rape and incest victims. So many people, according to polls, the majority, believe that that is extreme.
Not even a question. Just a statement. I don't like your abortion position. Now you say something. Not an interview. This is instead an accusation. You support a position that a lot of people like me don't support. If I was Doug Burgum, I would say, was that a question? But he tries to help her out.
Well, I support the Dobbs decision, and this returned the power of this decision back to the states. And what's right for North Dakota is not going to work for California or New York. It doesn't even work for Minnesota. And so I think that that decision should remain at the states.
That's right. His extreme position is the state should decide. The appropriate decision. The decision decided by the Supreme Court, and then North Dakota, they decided this. It's a completely reasonable position. Yes, she painted it as extreme. She said it was extreme, so therefore her viewers will view it that way because they're dopes, and so is she. But she's not done.
And I want to ask you about also LGBTQ issues, because you are also against LGBTQ rights.
Again, not a question, just a statement. And that's all she does. She asks statements instead of actually bringing something to the table, saying, would you have done this? Would you do this differently? No. You're just against LGBTQ rights. Who's against LGBTQ rights? No one's against their rights. That's your framing from the left.
Well, that's not exactly true, because we believe in that every American needs to be respected and all of that. And so I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, because we do support fairness in women's sports. We do support making sure that we've got inclusive environments in what we do. And so I'm not exactly sure how you're making that statement.
Well, do you support some of the recent rulings, including the Supreme Court ruling that ruled against a website?
It didn't even rule against the website. That's not even true. The point she's making isn't even accurate. They ruled for the website to say that you couldn't force them to do something. So she doesn't even have the facts straight. She just said, I'm going to go on, I'm going to ask him, what about abortion? What about LGBTQ? And when he said, well, what are you talking about? She stumbled around and tried to come up with a question about the Supreme Court. She didn't get it right. She thinks that you should be forced to do work for someone you don't want to do it for. He doesn't. It's that simple. That's not anti-LGBTQ rights. They don't have special rights. They may want special rights, but they don't have them.
Serving customers who were gay.
Well, that's really about religious freedom. And in America, one of the things that has been a hallmark of our whole country is we have, freedom from religion. We have freedom of speech. You can't have compelled speech in this country. You can't require people to say things they don't want to say. But we've also got freedom from religion, not just freedom of religion. And so I support the Supreme Court on that decision because it's about free speech.
Now, give this guy credit. He kept it cool. He stayed collected. He laid out where she was making no sense, and he addressed her issues. It would have been nice if she had an actual question to ask that wasn't about Donald Trump. But here's her opportunity to get someone on running for president. What does she want to do? She wants to talk about Donald Trump, abortion, and LGBTQ issues. These people are not about having a substantive discussion. They're not at all about that. It is all about these issues that they deem are important because they're important to them and the people they drink wine with at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. That is what they care about. And Andrea Mitchell is having a rough time here because this person said, well, explain what you're talking about, and she couldn't. You like LGBTQ? I mean, that's actually a question. She could have said that, but she couldn't even say that. She just accused him of being an extremist. Doug Burgum has no chance of being president of the United States. None. But his positions are completely middle-of-the-road positions. Don't force people to do things they don't want to do. We have freedom of religion in this country. The issue on abortion, let the states decide. Those are completely reasonable positions, and they paint them like they're extreme. Imagine if the American media actually treated the sides fairly and asked real substantive questions where this country would be instead of, hey, you on the right, you guys are crazy. Why are you so crazy? Aren't you guys dumb and crazy? And then when they have a liberal on there, why are you so great? And why is the other side so dumb and crazy? That's Andrea Mitchell's interview style. She's terrible. All of them are terrible. But for some reason, there are people that will watch this show and take away from this that this guy hates LGBTQ rights and hates anyone to ever have an abortion anywhere. Not even close to true, but that's how Andrea Mitchell at least attempted to frame it.